Hello everyone. So just help me to learn IELTS. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Learn more. Halo. Lagi ngapain Bang Ok? Aku lagi belajar. I'm learn about English because I uh, have English test at June. Aku lagi sinau bahasa Inggris. Saya. Coba tolong di tap layar. Aku mau terang lagi. Hey guys, kalian mau ini nggak? Mau Shopee Pay nggak? Ordana. Shopee sih. Mau nggak? Nanya doang sih. Kalau mau gue bisa. Ini kasih dana. Mau Shopee. Gitu. Coba di komentar coba. Mau ya? Shopee antara 15.
As what will happen on this. And you're going to be clear because what you want before you ever get to bed is you are consistently 3 times in a row getting the score junior will probably have a downward value of the score. If you can do that 3 times in a row, then you're pretty much guaranteed to get that score on test day. Not only is this going to be great for you because you know that you're going to get the score that you need, but on test day you will have completely removed any stress and you will be able to perform to the best of your ability. Because do you get nervous and stressed out when you're tying your shoelaces? No.
Ayo guys, kita sinau bareng, latihan bareng, belajar bareng.
They've got the score that they need so many times that doing it is just like tying their shoelaces. But if you don't get the score that you need 3 times in a row, you need to move on to the next part of the system. The next part of the system is going to the back of the book, find the audio script, the transcript of the test you just did, and find the correct answer. And what you're going to do is you're going to correct your test honestly. You're going to check why you got each question wrong. So to do that, you can just look at the question, think back to the recording. But more importantly, what you should do is look at the actual audio script and think about why you got it wrong. And the aim of this exercise is to find your weaknesses, to spot patterns. What are your common weaknesses? So let's look through a few of them just to make you aware of what you should be listening to, or what you should be looking for. The very common one is spelling. Be honest with yourself. You should give yourself honest marking of your answers. If multiple ones are spelled incorrectly, don't give yourself a tick. That's wrong. If you're noticing that you are failing to get the score that you need because of multiple spelling errors, then that's good news because it's pretty easy to fix that. You might also spot that particular question type, so we can talk about this later in the video, are causing you a problem. So for example, every time you get a multiple choice question, you mess that up. Most of them are wrong. Or every time you get a maps question, or a diagram question,
Pakabar,
you get most of
Sofian
them wrong.
Tari.
That's a strategy issue. It's not your listening skills issue. There's nothing wrong. Language probably. You just need a strategy that works. Practice that strategy, and then you will have no problem getting tested. You might also think back and you might have got a few wrong in a row when you lost focus. So, for example, when I did the test, I was looking at the window, looking at the birds, and thinking about what I was going to do later that evening, and I got the first question wrong, not because there's anything wrong with listening or English, but because I just completely lost focus. If that is your issue, again, that's good news because you can improve your focus. I talked about that earlier in the video. A very, very common problem is students will come back to me using this system and they'll say, I can't find a particular reason. I don't know what my weakness is. If that's the case, probably vocabulary. So what you can do is you can look back, look at the question, but really read the audio script. And if there were a lot of words or phrases that you've never heard before and you don't understand, and that was causing an issue, you couldn't find the correct answer because you didn't understand the words, then that is a vocabulary issue, not really a listening issue. You need to improve the vocabulary, not the vocabulary improvement plan into the description. So the last step is the step that most students will like, where you see the most improvement. Take that weakness and work, turn each weakness into strength. Don't do more practice tests until you have improved that strength. So, for example, if you have a huge issue with spelling, doing more practice listening tests will not improve your spelling. If you have a problem with vocabulary, doing more practice tests will not magically improve your vocabulary. You need to focus in on that. And if you have any issues or if you need help with that, feel free to get in touch with us. We'll either give you free resources or we'll talk to you about maybe joining one of our courses. We always have ways of helping you improve your weaknesses, so feel free to get in touch. Now let's give you the step-by-step strategies that we give our VIP students that many of them have used to get a background. So before we give you these step-by-step strategies, let's look at how our students use them, because what you cannot do is just look at the strategy once and then go and apply it on test day.
Hello.
You need to do a few different things.
Apakah
So
ada
what we're
orang
going to do is
sini?
some real questions.
Hello.
These questions that we're going to look at are maps and multiple choice.
Tolong
There are
komentar
other
dong kalau ada orang sini.
listening question types, and we're going to show you where you can find strategies for all of them at the end. But we're going to focus on these two because these are the two that help students the most. These are the ones that you worry about and you want to reduce your stress and anxiety as much as possible. So before we look at the questions, let's look at how our students use these strategies. So number one, what they think about is what are the unique problems? What are the specific issues that are related to these questions? So for multiple choice, for example, one of the issues is that all of the options look the same or they look similar. That is a unique problem. You need to be aware of that so that on test day, when you see it, you'll be able to conquer that problem. You'll be able to solve that problem. Or with maps, what is very difficult for people is to visualize in their brain walking through that area or walking through that unique problem. So we first need to think about what are those unique problems, and then how do we solve them, and then how do we use the strategy. And the strategy is designed to overcome all of these problems. And then all you have to do is just practice using that strategy until it becomes habit, until it becomes second nature. You learn it by heart. Don't go into the test trying to think of these strategies, because we want to reduce thinking as much as possible. Go into the test knowing the strategies automatically. So when you're driving a car, if you've been driving for many years, you don't think about signal, checking them, how to change gears, how to use the pedals. You just use them automatically. That's the same approach that you should have if you want to mind towards these strategies. So let's start off by looking at maps. So in the test, you might get a question like this, where they will show you a simple map or a diagram. Normally, it is taking you through a tour of somewhere. So you'll hear a guide telling you where to find things or where to go during this tour or taking you on a tour of this place. In this example, it is a park, but it could be a library, it could be a university campus, it could be a shopping center, anywhere at all that you might get a tour around. And let's think about the key problems associated with listening maps. The first one is not being familiar with the specific language used to describe maps. For example, you might hear someone say to the east or in the west. You might hear someone instead of saying next to, adjacent to, for example. So you don't want to be thinking what do these things actually mean and being completely confused. So you need to familiarize yourself with
Nino,
these
Nino,
phrases and
Nino, Nino.
description, and the description will go through all of these. If there are any on that list that you don't understand, look up the meaning of it and get used to listening to those and understanding those. It will make your job much, much easier. The next problem that a lot of students face when it comes to maps is they're doing too many things at the same time. Now think about what you're doing when you're doing a maps question. You're not only listening, you're thinking about this unusual vocabulary. You're having to visualize and imagine yourself walking through the map. You have to understand what is being said. You have to understand the map. You have to decide the correct answers all at the same time. And you need to make notes. So we just talked about learning how to drive a car and how easy it is after a few years of driving it. But when you were first learning how to drive a car, everything seemed very, very difficult.
Yo guys, temenin gue nggak ngapa-ngapain yuk.
You're like, well, boy, just tying your shoelaces seems very, very difficult. When we do new things that are new to your brain, it is difficult to do this. But how do you overcome that problem? You overcome that problem through practice. You practice these maths questions, you use the strategy that we're going to give you. The strategy is designed to make everything much, much easier. I know I said this before, don't look at this video once and then think, I'm going to get it online. That's not how it works. But the third big problem is visualization. What do I mean by visualization? Visualization refers to being able to generate visual maps in your brain. So if they are describing this part, the best students, the students that get the highest score, can imagine themselves going through the South Gate. They can imagine walking past the lake. They can imagine seeing an adventure playground in their mind. Well, I've worked with a lot of different students over the years. Some students find this very, very easy. They have a visual brain, it seems, and other students find this nearly impossible. If you find it easy, you don't need to worry about this. But if you find it difficult, one of the things that I find works really well with students is removing this negative self-talk. So what a lot of students have said to me is, I'm not good at this. And really, they're not bad at it. It's not that that is an issue. They're just creating an excuse in their head. In other words, they are allowing themselves to blame this so that when they get a low score, they can say, it's because I'm not good at visualization. It's because I'm not good at maths. Really, if they were truthful with themselves, they just haven't put enough work in to improve visualization or improve maths. If you learn this strategy that I'm going to give you and use it multiple times, everything will become much, much easier. The second thing I would say is, if you struggle with visualization, do this. So instead of trying to get all the answers correct, listen to the recording and look at the map and only focus on visualizing what is happening. This is going to make it much easier, and you will convince yourself, kind of tricking yourself into understanding that anyone can do this. It's not that you're bad at visualization. It is just that you are worried about the test or stressed, and naturally you will create excuses. Just listen to it, think about what you're doing around the park or the museum or whatever it is, and you will trick yourself into understanding that you're quite good at visualization. Okay, now let's look at strategy for listening to maths. Step number one, read the question carefully. Read the instructions carefully. So for this particular map, we need to write the correct letter, A to H. We're not writing the actual place names. We're not writing Old Museum, North Gate. We're not writing Lake. We are picking the letter and putting it in here. I know that sounds very, very obvious, and I'm wasting your time, but you would not believe the amount of students that deserve a band 9 that don't get it because they don't read the instructions. Make it a habit to really focus in on the question and the instructions. Step number two, look at the map and understand the map. So for example, if we look at this one, what is it? It's a park. So there's one big circular path. There's a little path that goes off here. There are trees. There's a lake in the middle. There's a museum in the middle. There's two gates, South Gate and North Gate. Adventure playground here, glass houses here. Just basically look at the map and understand it. I know that sounds super obvious.
Hello.
But again, when you're under stress and you're tired and you're getting towards the end of the test, a lot of students don't do this. Next, look at the different options and think about what these might be. What might they say about these things? So let's start at the South Gate. G, there are trees, so they might say the woods in the south, or south woods, or forest beside the South Gate. That might be those things. So you're thinking about what they might say. If we move up here, A, so think about what they might say to get to A. So if we start at the South Gate, it will say, if we turn left to go past the lake, and there is a path, or there's a trail,
Hello, how
or
are
there's a
you?
footpath on your left. That's going to show you where you're going to go to get to A. D, it could be the museum, it could be the old museum, but it might be a new museum, a new building, or toilets, or cafe beside the museum. B and C are going to be next to the adventure playground. B is going to be as you go through the North Gate, so they might start at the North Gate. C is going to be next to the adventure playground. F will be beside the glass house. It might be the glass house, or it might be something next to the glass house. And then H might be something next to the glass houses, or it could be the wood or the forest or something like that. So you're thinking about what it could be, but you're also thinking about, if I walk through this map, what directions or what things will I hear that will get me to each of these? And this might sound like it will take a lot of time and you won't have time to do it. The more you do it, the quicker it will become until it becomes natural. So imagine you're standing at the North Gate. What direction would you go if you were going to go to A? So if you're standing at the North Gate, it probably will say, if you follow the path to your right, so you're standing here and you move down, and that will get us to A. If you go left, you will see the adventure playground, you'll see the museum in front of you. You want to actually visualize walking around this thing before you even hear it. That is going to make it much easier for you to visualize as you are listening to it. Now we want to look at the different options here, so 11 to 16. So we want to think about two things. Number one, will there be any synonyms? So cafe, what's the synonym of cafe? Coffee shop, maybe restaurant. Toilets, there aren't many, so there are a lot of synonyms for toilets, but they might say something like if you need to go to the bathroom. So think about those synonyms, and then think about where might these things be? Are there any obvious places where they would put the cafe or where they would put the toilets? They're probably not going to put the toilets deep in the middle of the woods. Maybe they might do, I don't know. But it's probably more convenient for them to put the toilets beside the old museum or beside the glass house, maybe H. So by following all these steps, before the recording even starts, you're just making everything easier and easier and easier. If you take two students, one is really good at listening, and they don't follow those steps, or you have a student that is not very good at listening, they follow those steps. The student that is not very good at listening will get a higher score than the student that is good at listening. That's how powerful these strategies are. And the next step is to listen to the beginning of the talk very, very carefully, because this is going to tell you where the talk begins. So they might begin at the south gate here, or they might begin at the north gate. Those are the three obvious places where they will begin. You must agree to go to an entrance. But it's not guaranteed. It probably will happen. And if they start at the north gate, then if they say to your right, that is going to be different from to your right at the south. So if we have a look here, if they start at the south gate, to your right are trees, H, and glass houses. But if we start at the north gate, to your right, we're going down here towards A. You need to really listen carefully to the beginning so that you understand where you're going. So now the recording is starting, you want to try to visualize actually walking through these places. You can close your eyes if you want, probably not a great idea because you have to take notes, but try to actually walk down the paths. Try to actually imagine that you're walking past the glass house, past the lake. What is to the right of the lake? What is to the left of the lake? As we go past the country playground, what is here? What is they talking about? Bend the road. What are they talking about? This is really important. As you are listening, you can make notes, think of those guys, and think about what the country might be. The next step is to be very careful with traps or distractors and tricks they might play on. For example, they might say, let's start off at the south gate, and to your left used to be the cafe, but we moved it next to the old museum. So if you put G, the cafe, you will be wrong. They said we used to have it there, but we moved it over here. They will often talk about things further down, they move things, they might be building something in the future. They might say the opposite. They might say, well, we're going to build a cafe, a new cafe, to the left of the south gate here, but that's going to take a few years. If you want something to eat, you should go next to the old museum. The right answer is going to be D. So they're not really trying to trick you, they're just saying you have the next thing to be aware of is signposting. So signposting language is things like, let's start off at the south gate. Indications of where they are. So let's start off at the south gate, and if we go to the left here, you will see the left. Now let's go back. So we're going back here, and let's go past the glass house. Let's finish off at the north gate. Think about this signposting language. Literally think of it as the signpost on the street, giving you direction. This is going to help you understand where you are, navigate around. And then finally, choose the correct answers, and if it's paper-based, transfer them over. If it is computer-based, just choose the correct answer. If it's computer-based, it will normally be just a drop-down menu with A, B, C, D, E, F, 1. Now again, I know I'm repeating myself. Do not watch this video and think I've mastered IELTS listening, maths questions, get some practice tests, get real practice tests. We'll show you those in the video and practice that strategy. It will become much, much easier. A lot of the students that I work with, they say, I hate maths, I'm not good at maths. Well, how many times have you actually practiced the strategy?
Lagi live.
Also, what you should do when you are practicing these strategies is go slow. Alright? If you need to rewind, play, and record multiple times, in this scenario, that is absolutely fine. Because what you're doing
Ada siapa nih?
You're not trying to affect it like that. You're not trying to judge your ability. Start off very, very slow.
Komen dong, ada siapa ini di sini?
Comfortable with math. And then get a little bit faster until you are at exam speed. Again,
Halo, siapa nih satu orang?
You don't go drive 100 miles an hour in less than one of your driving tests. Now let's think about the strategy for multiple choice. So multiple choice questions are going to
Coba di komen dong, di komen dong.
Question, and then there will be 3 or 4 options. Your goal is to pick the correct answer. So
Komen dong, siapa tuh?
And give you some unique tips for IELTS listening multiple choice questions. The first thing you should do is
I'm learning about English, guys. So
move on and leave
stay tuned.
It's crucial that you understand the difference between each of the different options and you understand the questions that are coming up. What a lot of students do is they might be focusing on this, they finish this section, and they're so worried about did I get the correct answer here that they don't move on and leave these questions.
So I think I will turn on the essay.
It is a much better strategy is to give an educated guess for these questions and move on and understand these. Because if you think, oh my god, I messed up these, I'm going to fail, I'm going to mess up my whole life, and then you focus on these and you don't move forward, then you've probably got these wrong, and you're probably going to get all of these wrong. Alright? If you mess these ones up, go and give an educated guess, give your best answer, and then move on quickly because you really do need to read all of these and understand all of these. Next is a good idea to underline or think of the keywords in each question. So what I like
Keywords.
to do is focus on keywords within the question.
So guys,
2023, 2024.
this
So that would be
afternoon
here,
I'm
here,
learn
here.
about
Within this
English
question, what are
time.
the
It's
keywords?
about
So
the
to start,
IELTS. I have an
reading.
IELTS test
Then we need to look
at
at the options and think of the keywords.
28
Again, choose the
June
options.
this
So why
year,
were you first created?
and
How was
hope
your
I
conclusion?
can
And
learn
where?
about it. Okay.
Next step is to think about the difference between each of the three options. So for this one, it's quite obvious. Let's have a look at the last one. Good value for money, useful variation, more useful than domestic appliances. So as you can see, these two are quite similar. This one's talking about money and it being good value for money. These two are both talking about usefulness. So they're very, very similar. So you need to think, okay, both of these are talking about usefulness, but what's the difference between the usefulness of each of these? This one's talking about there being lots of variations, useful variations, whereas this one is a comparison. It is comparing that there are more useful than other domestic appliances. So it's comparing refrigerators, fridges to other appliances such as vacuum cleaner, toaster, kettle, all of those things. Whereas B is talking about just domestic fridges, and there's lots of different types of fridges. So by underlining the keywords and thinking about the differences, it makes it much easier to think about what they're saying. The next thing to remember is that you should not think about what is the first answer that I hear and write down the first answer that I hear. So let's take the first question, for example. What did I discover from reading about ice houses? Why they were first created. So in the recording, they might talk about why they were first created or how they were first created. Now that might not be one of the options that relates to what did I discover from reading about ice houses. She might have listened to something or her dad or her mother told her why they were first created, and then later she talks about she was reading about where they were located. If you just note down the first one over here and you don't think
It's so funny, guys.
then you're going to be in trouble. So it is not a listening test, write down the first one over here. That is not what the listening test is. The multiple choice, it is not just a listening test, it is a thinking test. You need to read what understand the question and then think about related to the recording, what is the correct answer. It's not a listening test. It is a listening and thinking test. The next thing is what you should not do. Do not focus in on one question, get lost, panic, and then miss the rest of the questions. So for example, if you were in point one, what did Annie discover from reading about ice houses, and you lose focus, you get confused, you don't understand what's going on, then it is very, very important that you just read that question, make an educated guess, and move on to the next one. Because what happens is you miss that, you lose focus, and you focus in on that, and you're like, oh my god, I just missed that, and then you're like, okay, which one should I choose? And then recording keeps going, and you just messed up 22, 23, and 24. They will be important. So you need to decide what the correct answer is. Be decisive. I know that's difficult for many people in the world to be decisive and choose the correct answer. But if you don't choose an answer, you're sacrificing the rest of the question. The next thing is being very careful about qualification statements. These are words like but or however. So if we go down to 24, so you might say something like, it generally is good value for money. However, in recent years, but recently, they've become very, very expensive. So you might hear the first part of that sentence and think, oh, good value for money. And you mark that as the correct answer. But then she says, but however, changes her mind, qualifies.